So, we're in the back garden, admiring the damage to the fence that Storm Eowyn caused. And I've got some new fence posts to put up there, if we can get up there. Yeah. So, you know that this is pretty steep. You've seen the videos before. And did you know, at the bottom of the hill we have this little culvert with water running. Now, we can't get rid of that. It is the way that the garden drains from this extremely this extremely steep hill. And we've got these giant bits of rock protruding, but I thought we might actually make a wee feature of that, because this is constantly wet. But I think that is for a future video. Right now, the fence is the chore for the day, maybe a couple of days. So let's see if we can get up there first. Okay, so he's up there. You won't be able to hear him, so I'll just tell you that he'd said it's very, very boggy up there. And he's on the edge of, well, what I would call a cliff. And the last thing he wants is to fall down. So he's trying to grab what's left of the fence and pull it up. And hasn't been along there to see how those fence posts are. But we shall see. So I'm out here keeping an eye on him, because the last thing we want is a trip to the hospital. Oh, he's done very well. Although I have to say, he's disappeared. Maybe I'll need to go up and see if he's lying there. Anyway, while he's been doing that, I've been clearing this. So I'm trying to clear a wee bit of the rocks so that the water runs clear in this gully, but also because I think that would be quite a nice feature if we can manage to just remove some of this rock, remove some of the moss without moving any of the hill. Because you can see, if I just get this angle, we're very close to that wall, very close to the edge of the building there. However, all this moss, this is sphagnum moss. This is basically what reindeer eat, and it holds an awful lot of water. I'm just going to try and show you if I squeeze that. It does hold a lot of water. Brilliant for flower arranging and for doing Christmas wreaths, but I don't want it holding water here, because it just drips constantly. Now, we are in the west coast of Scotland, but I think that would make quite a nice feature. And then if I remove some of this carefully, then we can have a little kind of dripping water, possible mini waterfall thing. I can hear the chainsaw starting. I better go and check everything's alright. We'll come back to this. Okay, he's alive, he hasn't fallen down the hill. And what he's done is cut these posts.
So we need to put stakes in and braces on them. So we'll get these driven in and then we'll get a brace on it.
Okay.
So that it make it a wee bit more secure.
Okay.
But it's just a hell of a work.
Yes, it's a barrel full of moss, sticks, brambles, and it's come out of the gully. So it is beginning to clear. The water is draining, and I've cleared quite a bit of moss off that, which is still dripping. We had a little bit of rain last night, but I think you can see why, even in the summer, we need this gully to drain the water away. So this is quite a narrow wee bit, but the water is flowing because we've cleared all the rubbish out of it. That bit's okay. Whole lot of moss off that. We'll see how that goes. And I'm gradually working my way along. And I've kind of got to here, and then, I mean, that, folks, that is what we are dealing with. So I'll get about another 50 foot to go, and then I'll start going up the way. So you may well wonder why I'm focusing on this particular spot in our steep back garden. So you know, I've been draining the culvert, and we've been removing some of the brambles and a few of these endemic wild rhododendrons, which are an invasive species here in the west coast of Scotland. However, when we've been clearing this, we found some furry friends. Now, normally I'd be a wee bit worried about finding any furry friends on my property. However, I think these are going to be okay because they're voles of some sort. So that's V-O-L-E-S. Now, could be water voles, could be bank voles. I don't know which these are. They move really fast, which is why I'm talking to you and holding this camera straight. But they're brown, not dark brown, but a kind of harvesty mouse brown, and look like a hamster, but they are really quick. But we saw two yesterday in this kind of area. So running from under there, along a little run, to about there. So we've decided that we're going to concentrate on the bit nearest the garden. Whoops. And then we're going to leave the rest of it kind of wild, but managed wild. So anytime the brambles come up, they're going to get walloped. And anytime any more of these wild rhododendrons come up, we're going to get walloped. But I think we're kind of done here. I have planted up the top, up there, a couple of yellow azalea luteums. Now these are scented. They drop their leaves in the winter. And I thought they'd be quite nice. And the culvert's been cleared now. And I've left one or two little areas where the rock is showing through. And the plan is, in these areas, to let the water come down here and make a wee feature of it. So you can see we haven't had rain for about 3 or 4 days. There is still dripping. I've taken some of that sphagnum moss away because it gets very heavy and we don't want an incident with it. But when we get rain, this culvert could be quite pretty. That is my logic at the moment. So I'll put some snowdrops, and I'll maybe find some native bluebells to plant up here. But I'm going to concentrate mainly on scented azaleas. Number one, because they smell nice, and number two, because they just aren't outstandingly pretty. And if I limit myself in the palette of yellows and lemons and whites, I think it'll brighten this place up a wee bit. So you need to look at future videos and see how this very steep garden on the Isle of Arran turns out. So I'm back in the studio because it's raining. I have these 3 brand new A4 framed picture frames, which I brought back with me from France. I don't like wasting anything. Now, the issue with this, as you will see if you look through the packaging, is that it has a small mount inside it. So that's limiting what I'm trying to paint. Today's a painting day. This is my watercolor paper. And I have marked out with a lightly drawn pencil the frame that I can paint within to make use of the mount. And I want to use these 3 picture frames in my kitchen, which is still being finished off, but is nearly complete. And because we're at the seaside, I've decided one of the pictures is going to be puffins. Now, as I've mentioned before and will mention again, I'm rubbish at watercolour, but these are watercolour pencils and it's a lot easier. So you basically draw with the watercolour pencil, then with your brush you add water. So you do a base layer, and then when it is completely dry, which will be the day after I paint, so if I'm painting today, sometime tomorrow, then I can add a little bit more pencil if I feel, excuse me, it needs a more depth of colour. So puffins is going to be the first one. I'm thinking gannets for the second one, because I think my kitchen, because it's quite grey, needs a little bit of colour, and I was thinking blues and yellows might be quite nice. So I don't know what the third one's going to be. Might be seahorses or starfish or something, I don't know. So puffins, and I'm ready to paint. So I am going to get myself ready, and then you can follow what I'm doing. See how it turns out, see if I improve, see if I rip it up and put it in the fire. You never know. So I'm starting with a wee bit of water in there. I don't want the brush to be too wet. But you can see how when you get the water going, it just transfers the colour. So I'm just using a circular motion, and I'm just applying this water so I can get the lines of where the pencil was. to disappear, but to leave the colour. And remember, this is just the kind of base layer. Ooh, that's a bit blue. And I've got this big fat brush and a really fine brush to do fine work, which means I need to keep putting more water on it. And I've also got some trusty toilet roll, because I can use that to lift some of the colour off if I think it's a bit too much. Which it is on this side. So you can see how I'm lifting the colour off. That's a wee bit too blue. This is going to be shadows. So it's too blue there. And I don't want to overwork it because then it will lift the paper. And we don't want that. And I have found watercolours to be quite difficult. And that grey's just not working over. Don't know why that is. Anyway, I'll keep working on this and you can come back and see how it turns out. So that's the first level done. So I need to leave that to dry completely, so I'll be coming back to that tomorrow. Coming along. So that is it finished, and I'm quite pleased with that. As I said, the pencils are a lot easier to work with. I did have one little mistake, and I'm just going to share what I've learned. So when I did the eyes, I didn't really leave enough room. I had to do the catch light in the eye, and I wanted a tiny wee bit of orange because puffins have got a little bit of an orange outline round their eye, round their iris. So because I'd painted too much black, I had to get this craft knife and really a sharp blade so you can snap off a little bit of that to get a new edge. So it's quite adjustable. So I have scraped a little bit of the black very delicately back to the paper and done the orange. So I'm quite pleased with that. Little bit of mark from the paint, but this bit is going to be covered by the mount in the frame. So I just have to remove my tape, and I can probably reuse that for the next painting. So hope you like that. I like it. So now I just have to leave it to dry. So that's the watercolour for the gannets finished as well. This one I found a wee bit easier, so quite happy with that. Got to be video of the day. They all know I'm here. As long as I don't go too close, they're fine.